By the third month of my engagement to Jack, he had already gone through 4 girlfriends in a row. On the day I called off the engagement, I was so drunk I could barely stand. From a group of male escorts, I picked the most handsome one and pointed at him. You'll do. Keep me company tonight. After a night of tangled sheets, my gaze fell on the dragon tattoo coiled around the man's left wrist, and my mind went completely blank. Later, I suddenly started vomiting and was told after an examination that I was pregnant. My family forced me to get rid of the child. That night, the hospital was surrounded by countless bodyguards dressed in black. The man, his face full of murderous coldness, kicked the door open, bent down, and lifted me straight off the operating table. 1 month after giving birth, just as my daughter and I were practically packed up and sent to a wedding venue, I unexpectedly received a call from Jack. "Evelyn, what are you doing? I miss you. Can I come see you?" His voice on the phone was extremely low and dejected. I glanced at the man not far away, his face dark with jealousy, and smiled softly. "I've just been discharged after giving birth. I'm at a wedding right now. If you're coming, remember to bring a red envelope and a gift. Thanks." Chapter 1. The moment I walked into the banquet hall, I received a message from my best friend. It was a screenshot of a WeChat post my fiancé Jack had made 10 minutes earlier. "This little flower bud is going to bloom for me tonight." The photo showed a very pretty young girl, shyly leaning into his arms. I put away my phone and looked up, and there was Jack. He had an arm around a girl, black hair, snow-white skin, a white dress, and a pair of clean, almond-shaped eyes. Innocent to the extreme. It was exactly the girl from his post. Jack was coaxing her happily, holding a dazzling diamond ring, about to slip it onto her finger. "Well, Jack, you're getting serious this time?" Someone joked. Jack smiled lazily and reached out to pinch the girl's soft cheek. "Yeah, I'm settling down. You're really done playing around, Jack?" "Done. It's boring now." The instant his words fell, everyone at the table noticed me. Chapter 2. Jack only gave me a faint glance before looking away. His little girlfriend, however, was curious. "Jack, who is she? She's so pretty." Jack let out a mocking laugh. "My future wife." The girl's expression changed immediately. She shoved Jack away, about to throw a tantrum. Jack simply pulled her into his arms instead, teasing her until her small face flushed red. She really was cute. Everyone at the table looked at me with a mix of pity and sympathy. This was the 3rd month of my engagement to Jack. She was already his 4th girlfriend. Strangely enough, this time I didn't feel the slightest urge to get angry. "You guys have fun. I've got something to do, so I'll head out first." I withdrew my gaze and prepared to leave. Jack lifted his eyes at me indifferently. His gaze darkened slightly as he toyed with the girl's hand in his arms. "Evelyn, I didn't stop. If you walk out today, our engagement is over." Chapter 3. That line actually made me laugh. I stopped, turned around, and looked at him. Seeing me turn back, the corners of Jack's mouth lifted. "Come here, sit next to me, Jack." I stared at him steadily, thinking to myself that maybe I hadn't liked him as much as I'd always believed. "Let's call off the engagement." "Evelyn, what did you say?" Jack's eyes darkened instantly as he shoved the girl off his lap. "Jack," the girl almost fell, pouting in protest. "Get out." Jack barked coldly without even looking back. The girl was so frightened that tears streamed down her face, covering her cheeks. She ran out crying. The entire hall fell into complete silence. I looked at Jack, calm as if I were casually asking him what he wanted for dinner. "Jack, I've thought it through. Our engagement ends here." Chapter 4. As I left, I vaguely heard the sound of something shattering behind me, but I didn't turn around. When I walked out of the banquet hall and into the intoxicating spring night outside, I suddenly let out a long breath, feeling freer and lighter than I ever had before. Because of the engagement, I had applied to a university in City A. For more than 3 years here, my world had seemed to revolve endlessly around Jack. My parents and relatives all thought marrying into his family would be a tremendous blessing, but only I knew how bitter it truly was. My best friend called, both angry and anxious. "Evelyn, what exactly is Jack trying to do? Does he even remember he has a fiancé? He just said he's throwing a yacht party in Victoria Harbor tomorrow night, with fireworks all night long." To celebrate his new girlfriend's birthday. I cut her off. Rebecca, do you want to go out for a drink? Evelyn? That club you love the most, let's go there tonight. How about partying all night? For more than 3 years of university, I had always been the obedient, well-behaved girl, because my parents constantly warned me not to make a single misstep and bring shame to the Chan family. Don't ruin your reputation. Don't make his family dislike you. Your chastity is the best dowry you have. Yet behind my back, Jack once told others, Evelyn Chan is such an old fossil from the countryside. Kissing her isn't interesting at all. So you see how ridiculous those words were. Chapter 5. Rebecca hiccuped, waved her hand grandly at the row of male escorts in front of us, and said, Evelyn, pick whoever you like. Tonight, your big sister's paying. Resting my chin on my hand, I examined the men seriously. To be honest, they were all pretty good, but none of them stirred my heart. A little bored, I waved my hand. Next batch. Not satisfied. Evelyn, what kind of heavenly being are you even looking for? Rebecca pouted and complained. I guarantee you, every handsome escort in City A is right here. I want that one. I suddenly interrupted her, looking toward a man who had just come down the stairs not far away. Rebecca followed my gaze and instantly widened her eyes. Holy shit, Evelyn, that's the real deal. I straightened up, staring unblinkingly at the man. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, long legs, his physique was unreal. Most importantly, that face. Not only devastatingly handsome, but with an arrogant, untamed edge between his brows and eyes, exactly my type. You'll do. Keep me company tonight. I pointed at him and staggered over, slightly drunk. What's your name? The man raised an eyebrow slightly and looked at me with interest before answering. Frederick. I didn't notice that the few people who had been standing behind Frederick quietly stepped aside. Do you want to come with me? The smile at Frederick's lips deepened. Miss Chan, I'll go with you. I reached out to him. Frederick lowered his gaze to the engagement ring on my left middle finger. You're engaged? Only then did I remember the ring. A wave of nausea hit me, and I hurriedly took it off and tossed it straight into the trash. I'm single now. Chapter 6. Frederick smiled slowly. He took my hand. Miss Chan, where are we going tonight? Where to go? As I walked outside aimlessly, my mind filled with the messages my parents had just sent. Evelyn, who gave you permission to call off the engagement? How can you be so immature? Hurry up and go apologize to Jack. Do you hear me? The housekeeper said you haven't gone back to the apartment yet. A girl staying out all night will ruin her reputation. If you dare do anything disgraceful and embarrass the Chan family, your father and I will never forgive you. I suddenly couldn't help laughing. Turning to Frederick beside me, I said, to a hotel, do you dare? Chapter 7. While Frederick was in the shower, Rebecca sent me a flood of photos and voice messages on WeChat. Baby, I checked everything for you. He only started working here tonight. Super clean. I personally looked through all his medical exam reports. Word by word. Absolutely no risks. Baby, enjoy yourself tonight. You're almost 22 and you've only ever kissed once. So pitiful. Based on my experience, he's definitely going to make you feel amazing tonight. When Frederick pushed the door open and came out, he happened to hear that last voice message. I panicked and hurriedly shut off WeChat, my ears burning with embarrassment. Frederick leaned against the doorframe, a playful smile at the corner of his lips. Miss Chan, how exactly do you want to feel good tonight? Clutching my phone, my fingertips trembling, I still forced myself to look calm. That's your job. Why are you asking me? Frederick tossed the damp towel aside and walked toward me. He bent slightly, bracing both hands on the armrests of the single sofa I was sitting on. The tip of my nose almost bumped into his chest. Flustered, I leaned back to avoid him, but Frederick simply scooped me up. Then, Miss Chan, just enjoy yourself tonight. I'll do my job properly and make sure you're satisfied. Chapter 8. But things didn't go quite as smoothly as expected. Just before dawn, I whimpered and ended up biting Frederick. I'm going to file a complaint and give you a bad review. It hurts so much. His forehead was covered in fine beads of sweat. Hearing that, he smiled helplessly and lowered his head to kiss me again. His voice was a little hoarse. I'm sorry. I didn't do well enough. What's the point of sorry? Your professional skills are terrible. I glared at him angrily, my eyes red and swollen, feeling unbearably wronged. Frederick kissed away the tears at the corner of my eyes. Baby, give me one more chance. To be fair, he was innocent too. It was my first time, no matter how skilled or experienced someone was. Pain was inevitable, but I was being completely unreasonable. If it hurts again, I'm definitely filing a complaint and getting you fired. All right. Frederick gripped my waist, his other hand holding my calf, slowly lifting it. In the dim light, I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but the moment Frederick lowered himself and kissed me, his eyes were filled with unmistakable tenderness. Chapter 9. Maybe because it was the first time I'd ever let myself go like this, my sleep was restless. I even woke up earlier than Frederick. The curtains weren't fully drawn, letting in bright morning light. One of Frederick's arms was wrapped tightly around me. His breathing was steady, and he was sleeping deeply. I looked at his face for a while before gently lifting his arm away. That was when I saw the dragon tattoo on his left wrist. I almost couldn't believe it. My mind went completely blank. Because of Jack, I had heard a bit about the powerful families in this region. That kind of dragon tattoo would only appear on the wrist of the heir to the Hernandez family in City G, and the Hernandez family had an extremely terrifying underworld background. In these two regions, they were practically all powerful. I hadn't just mistaken the Hernandez heir for a male escort, I'd slept with him. Thinking of the horrifying fates of women I'd seen in the media who had been targeted by underworld hit orders, I panicked completely. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't even shower. I threw on some clothes and ran out of the room. I booked a flight straight back to the capital, under the Emperor's feet. In the heart of the capital, surely a hit order couldn't reach that far, right? Chapter 10. When Frederick woke up, his hand instinctively reached to his side, but all he touched was emptiness. The drowsiness vanished instantly. He sat up and noticed a pearl earring left behind on the bed. The corner of his lips curled slightly. Evelyn, she really had surprised him. A timid, shy, conservative, well-behaved girl from the mainland. A little old-fashioned bunny who would get startled and run the moment he teased her. And yet she had gone to a nightclub to pick up a male escort and even taken him back to a hotel. Bold as that was, she was still a first-timer. Frederick thought of last night, how she had cried, complained about the pain, bitten him, scratched him, all delicate and spoiled, and yet he had patiently coaxed her for half the night. In the end, she had finally settled down, curling up in his arms like a little rabbit, her eyes red. It had softened his heart beyond measure, so much so that he had almost wanted her to immediately give birth to a whole litter of little rabbits just like herself. Frederick Hernandez clenched the earring in his hand and stared at the glaring red stain on the bedsheets. But now, fine, she had slipped away again, just like before. He, the dignified young master of the Hernandez family, someone who ruled both the underworld and the legitimate world, had been slept with, and then dumped. If word got out, where would he put his face? Yet when he thought of her pitiful, delicate look when she cried, his heart still softened in the end. Frederick picked up his phone and made a call. Find out where Evelyn is right now. Once you find her, tie her up. No, once you find her, tell me. I'll go tie her up myself. With a cold expression, Frederick hung up. As he got out of bed, he tore off the blood-stained sheets as well. Chapter 11. With graduation approaching, most students had already gone off campus for internships. I had also taken leave from school. After returning to the capital, I didn't go home. Instead, I checked into a hotel, but on the second night there, when I went downstairs to pick up my takeout, I noticed two unfamiliar men in black jackets standing in the lobby. Something about them felt off. Sometimes, a woman's sixth sense is terrifyingly accurate. I thought of the heir of the Hernandez family in City G, thought of how I had taken Frederick Hernandez for a male escort that night and thoroughly used him, thought of the terrifying dragon tattoo on his wrist. A chill ran down my spine. Frederick really did have that kind of power. Even if I had returned to the capital, if he wanted to catch me, it would still be effortless. I didn't even bother eating. That very night, I checked out and changed hotels. The taxi arrived downstairs. As I left the hotel lobby, I vaguely sensed that the two men seemed to follow me out as well. I was so frightened and panicked that I almost stumbled when getting into the car. Only after the car had driven for a long while, and I saw no one following behind, did my heart finally begin to calm down. Maybe I was overthinking it. The undisputed heir of the Hernandez family. Perhaps he wouldn't even spare a second thought for someone as insignificant as me. Chapter 12. At this moment, Frederick also received a call from the capital. Young master, we've seen Miss Chan, but she seems to have noticed us. She looked very frightened and panicked. She's scared? Frederick asked. Yes. Miss Chan suddenly changed hotels. When she got into the car earlier, she almost fell. We were worried that continuing to follow her would make her even more afraid. So we didn't take any action for now. Frederick gripped his phone. Standing on the top floor of a skyscraper, the entire city G lay beneath his feet. He possessed everything. Yet at this very moment, he felt a hollow in his chest. Something he couldn't fill. Evelyn had always been like this. Ever since the first time he met her. More than 3 years had passed. Yet she hadn't changed at all, still timid to an almost pitiful degree. Otherwise, how could Jack have bullied her to this extent? In the past, Frederick had always believed that good girl Evelyn loved Jack. That was why he rarely came to City A and rarely inquired about her. But after that night, Frederick's thoughts had changed. If Evelyn truly loved Jack, she would never have done something so outrageously bold. She certainly wouldn't have been the one to initiate a breakup and call off the engagement. After all, Jack's family was considered one of the top elite families in City A. And as for Evelyn Chan, if it weren't for the engagement arranged by the older generation, the Chan family would never have been able to reach such a match. Young master, what should we do next? His subordinate asked again, interrupting his thoughts. Frederick looked down at the dazzling lights below, lit a cigarette, and said in a low voice, "Have them stay in the capital and keep an eye on her situation. Be cautious. Don't scare her again. If anything happens, report to me immediately. No delays." Frederick hung up the phone and turned back to his desk. He pulled open a drawer and saw the pearl earring inside. Unbidden, his thoughts drifted back to that night, to Evelyn, eyes brimming with tears, accusing him of poor professional skills and threatening to file a complaint. Frederick couldn't help but laugh, and every time he thought of how spoiled yet pitiful she had looked back then, his heart softened completely. Chapter 13. Ever since encountering those two suspicious men, the following days passed without incident. I stayed at the new hotel for a full week, and nothing happened. Only when the tension finally eased did I suddenly realize, in my panic to run away, I had completely forgotten about contraception. My mind went blank. I lay on the bed for a full half hour before finally grabbing my phone to call my best friend. "Evelyn, are you okay? I heard Jack already broke up with that little girlfriend of his. He even called me yesterday asking why you hadn't gone back to school. I think he wants to crawl back to you." The call had barely connected when Rebecca rattled on endlessly. Only after she finished did I let out a soft sigh. "Rebecca, I don't care what grass Jack wants to crawl back to. I just want to know, if you didn't use protection, is it possible to get pregnant?" On the other end of the line, Rebecca sounded like someone had grabbed her by the throat, letting out a piercing shriek. Evelyn, are you insane? You didn't use protection?" I closed my eyes. What choice did I have? I've been allergic to all rubber products since I was little. Okay, that's true. But didn't you take emergency contraception? It all happened so suddenly, I was too flustered and forgot. I only just remembered now. How many times did you do it? Is that really important? Very important. I grabbed a pillow and pressed it over my face. After a long while, I finally muttered, "I think about 3 times. Rebecca screamed again. Only 3 times? He looked so capable. Shouldn't it have been 7 or 8 times in one night? Rebecca! I was furious. Now is not the time for this. What am I supposed to do? Go buy a pregnancy test and check. And if I really am pregnant? Evelyn, don't be stupid. He's just a male escort. If you're pregnant, you must get rid of it immediately. My scalp tingled. I wanted to interrupt her and tell her, that man wasn't a male escort. He was Frederick Hernandez, the heir of the Hernandez family. But thinking of Rebecca's loud mouth, I immediately dismissed the idea. I understand. I'll go buy a test in a bit. Yet before I even bought the test, I started to feel unwell, a dull ache pulling in my lower abdomen. When I went to the bathroom, there was indeed a bit of bleeding. Judging by the timing, my period wasn't due for another week. This must have come early. But no matter what, having my period meant I wasn't pregnant. Only then did my heart finally settle back into place. Chapter 14. Perhaps because my body was unwell and the mental pressure too heavy. This time my period was very light, and it ended after just 2 or 3 days. And then, unexpectedly, Jack came to the capital from City A. My parents sent the family driver to pick me up and take me home. I didn't really want to go back, but I knew things with Jack had to be settled once and for all. So in the end, I packed up my things and got into the car. Come to think of it, this was actually Jack's first time visiting our home. Even when we got engaged, the ceremony had been held in City A. My parents hadn't felt it was inappropriate, after all. Marrying into Jack's family was considered a climb in status. But this time, Jack was extremely proper and thorough in his manners. He even brought 2 carloads of extraordinarily expensive gifts. My parents were glowing with joy, delighted beyond measure. Even my grandfather, who had been recuperating in the countryside, was alarmed and rushed back in person. As soon as my car stopped, Jack couldn't wait to come out to greet me. My mother beamed from ear to ear. "Evelyn, look at you, being so childish and throwing a tantrum at Jack. And yet Jack is still so tolerant. Still speaking up for you. Auntie, please don't blame Evelyn," Jack said gently. "I was the one fooling around before and made her unhappy. It's only natural that she'd be angry." My father immediately chimed in. "What young person doesn't like to have fun? Men will inevitably have some social flings. It's Evelyn who lacks perspective and wasn't considerate enough. In the end, it's all my fault," Jack said. He looked at me, his brows and eyes full of tenderness. "Evelyn, I admit I was wrong. I apologize to you. Don't be angry anymore, all right?" Chapter 15. To be honest, I was very surprised. After all, it wasn't the first time Jack had been openly or secretly involved with other women, but he had never once taken the initiative to admit fault or lower his head. What's more, I had never truly loved him that much to begin with. The little affection that once existed had long since been worn away by his coldness and infidelity. Seeing him act so affectionate now only made me feel calm to the point of disgust. "Evelyn." Jack saw that I was standing there, unmoving and expressionless. He frowned slightly and stepped closer, extending his hand toward me. I noticed the engagement ring on the middle finger of his left hand, and I thought of the ring that had once belonged on my own finger, now long since thrown into a trash can. Just like Jack himself, he, too, only deserved to be in the trash. I didn't take his hand. Instead, I took a step back. The smile on Jack's face finally collapsed. My parents' expressions changed as well. "Evelyn, that's enough. If you keep this up, it's not being principled, it's being rude and ill-mannered." "Yes, I'm rude. I'm ill-mannered. I just don't want to marry a man who can't commit. Is that wrong?" "I already said it. Young people liking to have fun is normal. What's more, Jack has already apologized to you." A chill spread through my heart, wave after wave. These were my biological parents. In their eyes, I wasn't their flesh and blood. I was merely a commodity, something they could sell at a satisfactory price after weighing the pros and cons. As for whether the commodity was happy or miserable, that didn't matter at all. I don't want to endure this anymore, and I don't want to turn myself into a resentful woman. I took another step back. "Let's cancel the engagement. We already talked about this last time in City A." As I said this, I looked at Jack. "If I remember correctly, that day you also said that as long as I walked out, the engagement would be over." Jack's expression gradually turned cold. "Evelyn, let's talk properly. There's nothing to talk about. Jack, with your background, Evelyn, can't afford to reach that high. Evelyn." My mother rushed forward and grabbed me angrily. "You child, how can you be so willful? What do you mean can't afford? You and Jack are engaged. Arguing is one thing, but how can you just cancel the engagement? Jack, don't be angry. Evelyn is just stuck in a dead end right now. I'll tell her grandfather later and have the old master discipline her properly." Jack let out a mocking laugh instead. "There's no need. Jack, Auntie, Since Evelyn has already made up her mind, then let the marriage be called off. After saying that, Jack finally looked at me. Evelyn, I already broke up with that girl long ago. Nothing happened between us. That night, I only said those things because you embarrassed me and I couldn't save face. I never truly wanted to break off our engagement. Jack, what's the point of saying all this now? Jack smiled as well, lowering his gaze. He casually removed the ring. Fine, then as you wish. He handed the ring to me. I didn't take it. Jack didn't insist either, he simply tossed it away. Chapter 16. After Jack left, the atmosphere in the entire house turned oppressively heavy. Grandfather sat in the main seat, saying nothing, only coughing violently from time to time. After nearly half an hour, he finally spoke. Since you refuse to cherish such a fine marriage, then don't blame this old man for being ruthless later. Evelyn Chan, you are a daughter of the Chan family. Since you've enjoyed the wealth and privilege the Chan family gave you, you should naturally make sacrifices for the family. You also know that the Chan family is no longer what it once was. Right now, we're barely holding on. We originally thought that once you married into Jack's family, the Chan family could slowly recover. Now it seems our Chan family simply doesn't have that fortune. Leaning on his cane, grandfather stood up. There's no time to lose. Start arranging blind dates again. Grandfather, I'll move out of the Chan family. From now on, I won't spend a single cent of the family's money. I won't marry for the rest of my life. Looking at the elderly man before me, weighed down by age and decay, I felt so crushed I could barely breathe. Fine, then pay back all the money the Chan family has spent raising you over the years. Grandfather looked at me, smiling faintly, cold and grim. I won't ask for much. The Chan family raised you carefully over these 20+ years. 20 million isn't unreasonable. 20 million. The Chan family's assets 10 years ago didn't even amount to 20 million. Did they? Can't come up with it? Then behave yourself and get married. There will always be someone willing to pay 20 or 30 million to marry you. The Chan family didn't raise you for 20 years just to end up with an ungrateful wretch. Evelyn Chan, you can't live with such a lack of conscience. Chapter 17. I was locked inside the house. Half a month later, the family began arranging blind dates for me. But perhaps because of Jack, or perhaps because the Chan family's financial hole was simply too frightening, finding a sucker wasn't easy. Fortunately, I needed to return to City A to prepare my graduation thesis and defense. After all, this glittering degree would add another layer of polish to my value. The Chan family cared a great deal about this, so my parents personally accompanied me back to City A. Jack's scandals were already everywhere. I heard he had recently been promoting a third-tier actress. Jewelry, luxury cars, villas. He was throwing money at her without restraint. When my parents found out, they scolded me repeatedly in frustration. Once, in a fit of anger, they even laid hands on me. When Rebecca saw the finger marks on my face, she trembled with rage. Evelyn, cut ties with them. Parents like that are worse than animals. 20 million. Rebecca, even if you killed me and sold me inch by inch, I still wouldn't be worth 20 million. I shook my head helplessly, my heart filled with desolation. Evelyn, but living like this, it's too tragic, too pitiful. What are you going to do? I laughed at myself. Deep down, it felt as if a pessimistic premonition had already taken root, this massive pit. I might never be able to climb out of it in my lifetime. Evelyn. Rebecca suddenly tugged at my sleeve, her small face pale as she stared at something behind me. That male escort you picked that night, he's come looking for you. I instinctively turned around and met Frederick's gaze head-on. In an instant, my scalp went numb, my back drenched in cold sweat. There was no time to think, my body reacted faster than my mind. I shot to my feet, grabbed Rebecca, and ran. I didn't notice the chair in front of me. My skirt caught on the armrest, and I nearly fell in utter embarrassment. But Frederick was faster. He reached out, grabbed my arm, and steadied me. Evelyn, why are you running? Rebecca stared at me in shock. Evelyn, he even knows your name. Frederick lifted his eyes and glanced at her, just a calm, indifferent look, but Rebecca immediately fell silent. Afraid Frederick might take his anger out on Rebecca, I forced myself to steady my nerves and speak. Rebecca, You go back first. I'll contact you later. Rebecca wanted to say something, but Frederick's presence intimidated her despite herself. Evelyn, then hurry back to school. Don't stay out too late. Don't worry. After Rebecca left, I finally looked at Frederick Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez. Let's talk. Chapter 18. I'm very sorry about what happened that night. I was drunk, that's why I mistook you for. I couldn't quite bring myself to say it. After all, the dignified heir of the Hernandez family had been mistaken by me for a male escort. That was an unspeakable humiliation. The fact that Frederick hadn't sent people to hunt me down the next day already counted as my good fortune. But Frederick suddenly reached out and pinched my chin, anger flashing in his eyes. Evelyn, what happened to your face? I froze, then immediately thought of the slap mark on my cheek. The grievance I'd been holding back silently overflowed in an instant. Still, what did any of this have to do with Frederick? It's nothing. I tried to push his hand away, but he wouldn't let go. Who hit you, Evelyn? Tell me. For some reason, my eyes reddened. My family did. It has nothing to do with you. Don't interfere. They failed to force you to reconcile with Jack. So now they're forcing you to marry someone else, aren't they? I was stunned. How do you know? Then, amid my shock, I suddenly thought of those two suspicious men back in the Capitol. You've been having people watch me this whole time? I had thought that after that incident, Frederick's people had left the Capitol. Turns out, everything about me had always been right under his nose. Chapter 19. Evelyn. I didn't have anyone following you. I was just Hernandez. I know I was in the wrong first that night. I apologize to you. I cut him off. A man like Frederick was someone I couldn't afford to provoke, so I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Frederick slowly let go of my chin. The anger in his eyes was replaced by another kind of heavy, dark emotion. So what are you trying to say? I want to say, I'm sorry. I really am. So, can we just let it go and never mention it again? What does that mean? Let's just pretend nothing ever happened, okay? With reddened eyes, I looked at Frederick. The mess at home had already drained me completely. I truly had no energy left to deal with him as well. Frederick said nothing, but his expression was grim. I clenched my teeth and spoke again. If you want revenge, then take it. I'll accept it. Revenge on you? Frederick seemed so angry he laughed. But after the laugh, there was a faint trace of desolation in his eyes. Evelyn, you really want to cut all ties with me, don't you? I nodded slowly. All I wanted was for him to let me go. He didn't speak again, he just raised his hand. I thought he was about to hit me and instinctively turned my face away. But his fingers landed very gently on the slap mark on my cheek. Evelyn, you're exactly the same as before. Not a bit has changed. You look timid and weak, yet you're full of defiance and recklessness. I opened my eyes in surprise. Mr. Hernandez? Frederick let out a self-mocking laugh. I must be insane. Evelyn. Insane to have kept longing for her all this time. Knowing full well she had a political marriage lined up. Knowing full well she was already engaged, yet never giving up. Insane to have wildly developed the desire to marry her after that one night. But from the very beginning, she had never liked him. She had never noticed him at all. She didn't even remember ever having crossed paths with him. And yet, he still couldn't stop himself from feeling heartache for her, worrying about her, seeing the injury on her face. He had almost wanted to kill someone, but she didn't need him. Not at all. Chapter 20. Frederick's hand slid away from my face. He stepped back, gave me one last look, and said, Evelyn, you'd better pray that you live a better life from now on. I didn't quite understand what he meant, but he didn't explain further. Frederick withdrew his gaze, turned around, and left without looking back. If Evelyn lived well, perhaps he could slowly let her go, slowly forget her. But if she lived badly, if she were bullied by others, his heart would inevitably still worry about her. And for him, that was nothing short of a slow, brutal torture, because his concern and heartache were things that Evelyn, the foolish woman, didn't need at all. Chapter 21. On my way back to school, I received a string of messages from Rebecca. No way. Evelyn, how can a male escort have that kind of presence? He looked at me once and I completely chickened out. By the way, what did he want with you? To keep seeing you? Or blackmail you? But, Evelyn, when he stepped in like a hero just now, he was really so handsome. Why don't you just keep him? Seriously, he's a divine level catch. Absolute top tier. Damn, sis, you really ate well. I looked at the messages, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, but things between Frederick and me were completely over. So I simply replied, "It's all settled. Don't bring it up again, babe." Huh? That's it? What a pity. Staring at my phone screen, I couldn't help thinking of Frederick's departing figure just now. That lofty, unmatched young master, so proud and untouchable. And yet, even he had moments of loneliness and dejection. Chapter 22. Time passed in the blink of an eye. At another charity banquet in City A, my parents somehow managed to get invitations. They went all out trying to sell me off. They even spent a fortune buying me a custom haute couture gown. Unfortunately, not long after the banquet began, when the waiters served fresh sashimi, the smell of raw fish hit my nose and I couldn't hold it back. I vomited uncontrollably right there on the spot. The host, terrified that there might be an issue with the food or drinks, immediately called an ambulance and had me sent to the hospital. But no one could have imagined I wasn't vomiting because of spoiled food. I was pregnant, nearly 7 weeks along. Chapter 23. I never could have imagined things turning out like this. Looking back now, that earlier bleeding must have been light bleeding in early pregnancy, which I had mistaken for my period. The child was Frederick's. I didn't dare imagine what would happen if the Chan family found out that the baby in my belly belonged to Frederick. How shamelessly they would pounce, trying to tear a piece of flesh off Frederick for themselves. Evelyn, whose child is it? I let out a light laugh. I'd just broken up with Jack back then. I was in a bad mood and went out drinking. I was drunk. I didn't even know who the man was. My father cursed furiously and slapped me twice. Evelyn, you've completely disgraced the Chan family. This child can't be kept. It has to be taken care of immediately, and this matter must not get out. If people find out you got pregnant before marriage and had an abortion, what man would be willing to pay a high price to marry you? I laughed until tears streamed down my face. If I'm such a disgrace, then cut off our father-daughter relationship. So the 20 years we spent raising you were for nothing? I advise you to give up this foolish idea as soon as possible. Get the surgery done immediately. After you get your degree, come back to the capital and get married. I didn't respond, but in my heart, I had already made up my mind. This time, no matter what, I would find a way to break free from the Chan family. Chapter 24. I was transferred overnight to a private hospital in City A. The surgery was scheduled to begin at 8 in the evening. The reason for choosing a private hospital was its strict confidentiality, but no one could have expected. Just as I was being wheeled into the operating room, dozens of luxury vehicles suddenly drove into the hospital grounds. At the front was a Hummer with dual license plates. Countless bodyguards dressed in black leapt out of the cars, surrounding the small building I was in. Frederick, his face filled with murderous intent, kicked open the half-closed operating room door with a gun in his hand. The doctor who was preparing the anesthesia was so terrified that the syringe slipped from his fingers and fell to the floor. I jolted upright on the bed. Frederick had already walked over coldly and lifted me straight into his arms. No one dared to stop him. Outside the door stood 2 rows of armed bodyguards. My parents were so frightened their legs went weak, they could barely stand. When they saw Frederick carrying me out, my father shrank back, forced himself to stand, and was just about to speak. Frederick lifted his eyes and glanced at him. Just that single look made my father shut his mouth and shrink back into the corner. You two forced her to get rid of the child, didn't you? My father refused to answer, pushing my mother forward instead. We did. Yes, but we were thinking of Evelyn's best interests. She's still young, and being pregnant before marriage doesn't sound good if word gets out. That's right. That's right. A girl's reputation is the most important thing. Frederick lowered his gaze to look at me. I was still trapped in the shock of this sudden turn of events, dazed and slow to react. All these years, I've only ever had one person I truly liked, he said lightly. His tone was casual, his voice soft. Yet to everyone listening, it sent an involuntary chill down their spine. And your Chan family has bullied her again and again like this. This gentleman, my mother stammered. Evelyn is our daughter. How could we possibly bully her, whether you did or not? I know very well. Holding me in his arms, Frederick took a slow step forward. My parents shrank back in terror until they were pressed into the corner. With nowhere left to retreat, they were truly frightened by the scene. After all, every one of Frederick's bodyguards was holding a gun, and none of it looked like an empty threat. We won't dare anymore. We really won't dare again. They were quick to submit, bending without hesitation, just short of kneeling. Frederick lifted his eyes toward the bodyguards. Someone immediately stepped forward and pulled them upright. I'll give you a way to survive, Frederick said calmly. Tomorrow, publish notices in newspapers nationwide, formally severing the parent-child relationship with Evelyn. That won't do. If you're unwilling, Frederick replied coolly. Then tonight, neither of you is leaving this place. Oh, and one more thing, from today onward, there will no longer be such a thing as the Chan family. The moment his words fell, the bodyguards immediately raised their guns and pressed them to my parents' temples. We'll publish it tomorrow. Immediately. From now on, Evelyn Chan has nothing to do with your Chan family. Yes, she will be my wife, Frederick said calmly. The young madam of the Hernandez family of City G, the future mistress of the household. City G, the Hernandez family? My father's eyes flew wide open. In that instant, I saw fear, disbelief, wild joy, and finally, all of it collapsing into utter despair. They had wanted nothing more than to use me to cling to power, to sell me for a good price and keep the Chan family alive. Yet they never imagined that when it finally came true, it would have nothing to do with the Chan family at all. Chapter 25. During the drive. Perhaps because pregnancy made me drowsy, or perhaps because the turmoil of the day had utterly exhausted me, I actually fell fast asleep in Frederick's arms. It wasn't until the car stopped that I opened my eyes groggily. Outside the window, lights blazed brightly. A mountaintop mansion stood there, vast as a palace. Where is this? I asked. Our home. Frederick lowered his head and gently kissed my forehead. Still sleepy? If you are, go back to sleep. I meant to answer, but after only nodding, I closed my eyes again and drifted back into sleep. Frederick laughed helplessly, lifted me up, and got out of the car. He carried me all the way into the main building and up to a bedroom on the second floor. I slept in complete oblivion, unaware of anything. Frederick stayed in the bedroom for quite a while before finally going downstairs. The butler had already gathered all the servants, bodyguards, and other staff in the hall. Frederick swept his gaze over them and then spoke solemnly. She is my future wife, the future mistress of the Hernandez family. Everyone was startled, but they all stood respectfully, holding their breath as they listened. Treat her the same way you treat me. If she wakes up, inform me immediately. After finishing, Frederick picked up his coat and headed out. Prepare the car. I'm going to see the old master. Chapter 26. That night, I slept exceptionally well. It felt as though, in more than 20 years of living, I had never once slept so deeply and comfortably. When I woke up, it was already nearly 9 o'clock. The surroundings were completely unfamiliar. Yet for some reason, I felt no resistance or discomfort at all. After washing up, I casually picked a new dress from the wardrobe, changed, and went downstairs. That was when I saw Frederick sitting below. Seeing me come down, he didn't stand, only said, "Go eat something. Have you eaten?" I asked. "I have." After answering, Frederick withdrew his gaze and went back to reading the newspaper. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but he didn't look very well. He seemed a little worn down, with faint dark circles under his eyes. Still, I didn't ask. I simply sat down quietly and ate. Chapter 27. Frederick's hand rested on his knee, rubbing it discreetly. The night before, he had gone to see the old master. Not only had he taken more than a dozen strikes of family discipline, he had also knelt downstairs all night, only getting up at 6 in the morning. Though his constitution was strong, even he couldn't endure such torment. Both legs were nearly ruined, but even if they had been, he would have accepted it willingly, because the old master had finally relented. That meant his marriage to Evelyn now had a 70% chance. The remaining 30% naturally lay with Evelyn herself. He still needed her to agree willingly. He had been arrogant and confident his entire life. This was the first time he felt unsure of the odds. Unable to help himself, he glanced again toward the dining area. Evelyn was sitting there, eating her fried egg in small, careful bites. From the side, she looked impossibly well behaved. Frederick felt his heart soften until it was almost melting. This was the girl who had stolen his heart, yet refused to take him. And still, there was nothing he could do about her. Now she even carried his child. The thought made his heart ache, soften, and swell all at once. He wanted nothing more than to marry Evelyn immediately, but he forced himself to hold back. If he scared her again, if she ran away like she had that morning, disappearing without a trace, he didn't want to experience that ever again. Watching the woman he loved walk away from him, while having no way to keep her by his side. Chapter 28. Frederick took me back to the Hernandez family's old residence to meet the old master of the Hernandez family. That legendary figure who was said to command both fear and respect, in my eyes. He was simply a kind and gentle elderly man. It was only after meeting the old master that I learned Frederick had knelt for an entire night because of me. This brat has been arrogant since childhood, never willing to bend or lower his head. In his 27 years of life, this is the first time I've ever seen him like this. The old master sighed. I know that if I hadn't agreed, he would have fought me to the end. That would only damage our bond as grandfather and grandson, so I might as well fulfill his wish. After seeing you today, I finally understand why he likes you. Yet I didn't understand. Frederick and I had only crossed paths because of that one mistaken night. I wasn't foolish enough to believe that he had fallen in love with me over a one-night stand. But no matter what, my understanding of Frederick had already undergone a complete upheaval. I thought back to that day when I came downstairs and saw Frederick sitting there without standing up. At the time, I had even complained inwardly, what a big shot attitude for a young master. Now that I thought about it, it was probably because his legs hurt so badly that he simply couldn't stand. Even now, 2 or 3 days later, he still occasionally showed discomfort when walking. After leaving the old master's study, I couldn't help but gently tug at Frederick's sleeve. Do your legs still hurt? Frederick lowered his gaze, looking at the fingers clutching his sleeve. After a long moment, he finally spoke. They're much better, but walking still hurts. Have you been applying the medicine? I always forget. I haven't been applying it on time. Then I'll remind you every day from now on to apply it on time. The corners of Frederick's lips seemed to lift slightly. Then, just as I loosened my grip, he reached out and held my fingers instead. All right, he said softly. Then you remind me every day. Chapter 29. But reminding him every day eventually turned into me personally helping him apply medicine 3 times a day. I only just realized now that this person is used to pushing his luck and constantly taking advantage. He even resorted to playing the victim to coax me, and I ended up taking the initiative to kiss him once. By the time I was 5 months pregnant, my relationship with Frederick had already made considerable progress. When I invited Rebecca over to the house, that girl honestly thought she was dreaming. It wasn't until Frederick went to the study to work that she grabbed my hand, her eyes sparkling, her voice so excited it practically changed pitch. So, Evelyn, so you actually slept with the Hernandez family's crown prince that night? Sis. You really are my sister. How can you eat this well? Your first time picking a male escort and you picked a crown prince. When will I ever have this kind of blessing? Quick, tell me. What does it feel like to sleep with the crown prince? Does he have God-given talent? Is he different from ordinary men? 7 times a night. I couldn't help laughing and crying at the same time. I picked up a grape and stuffed it into Rebecca's mouth. Breathe a little, will you? Don't choke yourself. MMPH, so unfair. I treated you as my best friend and you hid this from me for so long. Crown princess. Back then the wind was too strong and blew this old servant away from you. Now that I've finally found you again, you absolutely must not abandon this old servant. She made me laugh, but my eyes still turned red as I gently hugged her. Rebecca, since I came to City A, you're the only friend I've made, and you're also my best, most precious friend, no matter who I was before or who I'll be in the future. That will never change. You're so annoying. Evelyn, why are you suddenly getting all sentimental? You're making me want to cry too. I started crying, and Rebecca followed suit, wailing right along with me, hearing the noise upstairs. Frederick nearly had a heart attack. He rushed downstairs and saw the two of us hugging each other and crying. He thought something terrible had happened, his voice even trembled. Evelyn, are you feeling unwell anywhere? He pulled me into his arms and asked carefully. I'm fine, Frederick. Rebecca and I were just talking and got too excited. Really nothing wrong? Frederick looked at me, then gently touched my slightly rounded belly. This little brat didn't trouble you, did he? We had never checked the baby's gender, but because my pregnancy symptoms were a bit intense, Frederick had convinced himself the baby was a boy, hence all the fuss. And he didn't particularly like boys. He always told me he only wanted a daughter who looked exactly like me. He was very well behaved today, I said softly, glaring at Frederick. He always called the baby a little brat. The baby might hear that inside my belly and get upset too. Rebecca grabbed her bag and fled the scene. I'm leaving first. Evelyn, this dog food is about to choke me to death. Watching Rebecca skip away, I couldn't help laughing again. The best friendship. The best love. It felt as if I had gained them all overnight. Have her come less often in the future, Frederick said. He picked me up and settled me on his lap. Every time she comes, you only pay attention to her and ignore me. That's not true. This is Rebecca's first visit. Either way, you're not allowed to play favorites. How am I playing favorites? Then kiss me, Evelyn, properly. No half-hearted pecks. I looked at the man in front of me and cupped that devastatingly handsome face. Meeting his gaze, in the depths of his obsidian black eyes, there was a small reflection of me. Only me. A sweetness welled up in my heart. I lifted my face and kissed his lips. Frederick's hand slid into my thick hair, tightened slightly, and slowly deepened the kiss. Chapter 30. I gave birth to a daughter for Frederick, a little girl whose eyes and small mouth looked like mine, while her eyebrows and nose resembled his. When our daughter was 1 month old, we held a wedding on a beautiful island overseas. Just before the ceremony was about to begin, I unexpectedly received a call from Jack. Frederick grew a little jealous, standing nearby with our daughter in his arms. Looking at me unhappily, I smiled softly and soothingly squeezed his fingers before answering the call. Jack, what's the matter? Evelyn, where are you? I miss you so much. Can I come see you? Jack's voice sounded extremely dejected. I tightened my grip on Frederick's fingers. He tried to pull away in jealousy, but I held on even tighter. After a few tries, he obediently let me keep holding his hand. I've just finished my postpartum recovery. I'm getting married right now. If you're coming, remember to bring a red envelope and a gift. Thanks. On the other end of the line, there was an instant of deathly silence. I didn't wait for Jack to say anything else. I hung up the phone and dragged that long-forgotten number straight into the blacklist. I put the phone down and stood up. Frederick placed our daughter into the stroller and pulled me into a tight embrace. I don't like you calling other men by their names. All right, I won't anymore. I also don't like you talking so much with other men. All right, from now on, I'll only talk this much with you. Evelyn, I love you. I know I love you too, but I loved you more. And earlier. When did you start liking me? When you first came to City A for university. I saw you on your campus. The first time I saw you, I wanted to pursue you, but you got scared and ran away. I looked completely confused. I didn't remember anything like that at all. When I had just arrived in City A for school, it was true that some people had pursued me, but because of the engagement, I rejected them all. I was also always careful to keep my distance from male classmates. I scared you away? What did you do to scare me? I just parked my car downstairs at your dorm, Frederick said awkwardly, and then had 10 bodyguards each hold a bouquet of flowers. You girls all like flowers, don't you? I laughed so hard I almost doubled over, and finally remembered that long-forgotten incident. I also remembered how Rebecca and I had analyzed it together for a long time afterward. We eventually came to the conclusion that the man was terrifying and had to be avoided at all costs. Who pursued a girl like that? Anyone who didn't know better would think he was about to kidnap her. And besides, if you fell in love with a man like that, who knew, if you ever tried to break up, you might end up dismembered and dumped into the sea. Rebecca had even said he had a tattoo on his wrist, so he was definitely involved with the underworld. Back then, when I had just arrived in City A and was still young, I naturally ran as far away as I could. When you're young, you tend to judge people by appearances. Only now did I truly understand. Those who look refined and gentle but are actually hypocrites are the most detestable of all. Like Jack and Frederick. I couldn't help standing on my tiptoes and kissing him. He was the greatest and most precious treasure I had ever stumbled upon in my life. Evelyn, you're going to be my wife. Are you happy? I nodded hard. Frederick, I'm very happy. I'll do my best to make you happy for the rest of your life. I won't let anyone bully you ever again. Evelyn. Frederick was rarely this serious. It almost made me cry. Don't tease me, I'll cry and ruin my makeup. Frederick carefully brushed away the tears clinging to my eyelashes. All right, our Evelyn won't cry. Our Evelyn is going to be the most beautiful bride today. But I haven't fully recovered yet. My waist is still a bit thick. Originally, I hadn't wanted to hold the wedding just 1 month after giving birth. But Frederick truly couldn't wait any longer. It's fine, after we go back. We'll hold a few more weddings, one in City G, one in City A, and another in the capital. You're crazy, Frederick. I just want the whole world to know that I married the woman I love. Frederick hugged me again and whispered by my ear. Evelyn, you have no idea how happy I am at this very moment.